aware
which
of that.
to me would suggest that the best place to be would be on top of the water, because water would inundate everywhere. If you're telling me that the bulge along the equator is about 42 kilometers, you said that
Correct.
water would inundate every single corner of the earth.
So, Brent, would it be a good idea to be on a big boat on the water, or would you be facing some waves, some gigantic, humongous waves out there?
Well, there's no prophecy that suggests, and there are actually hundreds of prophecies that are referring to this next shift. And in fact, some of the prophecies we never even got into the prophecies, but some of them refer to it and call it directly a pole shift. And none of them refer to any destruction by waves, by massive amounts of water, except, of course, when you're on the ocean. So we're not really looking at that. Yeah, we can't predict scientifically. That's why we have moved over to prophecy. We have gone, we feel, as far as we can, looking at all the science and the history, and now we're moving into prophecy. And none of the prophecy suggests destruction by water. And in fact, you referred to the Bible. In fact, I believe there was according to the prophecy of Noah, promised to Noah that the world would not be destroyed again by water.
But, Brent, didn't you say in your description, the scientific description of this big jutting out of Earth at the equator, wouldn't that displace a lot of water and create big waves? Wouldn't that make sense?
Well, when the pole shifts, there will be huge typhoons and waves. There will be tsunamis that will basically, like waves in a bathtub, it will decimate all the coastlines. So that'll take about 25% of the population right there. But depending on where the new equator rests, if the poles only shift 30 degrees, most of the continents will be completely intact the way they are. Just their shorelines will end up changing. So major cities inside continents will be intact. Interesting enough, some of the modern prophets that reference the continents themselves, Edgar Cayce, the sleeping giant, the sleeping prophet, indicated that 5 of the countries in Europe would disappear, and the shorelines would, be remade. So we do have little bits and pieces. Nostradamus says that there'll be a day where everyone falls over. Edgar Cayce says the Mississippi will reverse its direction permanently. Now, if you reverse the direction of Mississippi, that means the Delta region must be higher than the, say, Ohio River Basin, which means the equator in that part of the world moves north in that particular area. Now, what the tilt is, we don't know. So that's why we're going through all of this documentation to see what we can piece together from what prophecies exist.
I guess Rick was trying to figure out whether it would be a good idea to try to ride it out in a big boat of some sort. But if you're saying that there's going to be these gigantic tidal waves and things, that even though they eventually settle down, you could be in trouble out there on a boat.
Yeah, if you're on the ocean, no, it would be like massive riptides. These rogue waves will take out huge ocean liners. They do that today. They're extremely rare, but they would be all over the place when this event happened.
Hey, Rick. Okay.
Yeah.
Rick, thanks for that call. We're going to go to Brad on our wild card line. Brad's in Syracuse, New York. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, George. Good morning, Matt. First of all, your polar ice cap theory makes a lot of sense, because up here, if you get snow on your tire, all you need to do is know that it gets out of balance, and that makes total sense as far as the Earth spinning. But my question was, I know you don't talk about paranormal, but the whole UFO thing, it just makes sense to me that if 1/3 of the population may be alive after this 2012 deal, wouldn't it be a great opportunity for, at that point in time, for them to come and kind of, everybody would be in disarray and make their approach here known to everybody?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, Brad. Honestly, I don't have an answer at all for you. I couldn't even guess at an answer because we really have never looked into this phenomenon of UFOs. If UFOs exist, I would tend to believe that they are, I guess my personal feeling, if I had to give a say about it, if they exist, this is theoretical. If they exist, they probably have been here for tens of thousands of years, just watching. They don't interfere. Their technology, according to, quote, reports, must be so far advanced beyond anything we have. They run rings around us. They don't need us. They don't care about us. They're just looking at us. If they intended to help us in the future, why wouldn't they have helped us in the past? I tend to think that their technology is so far more advanced, if they are actually real, that they're not what people believe them to be. For instance, most people, when they think UFO, they might think extraterrestrial alien, just like us. High technology, million years more advanced than us. We get in our flying ship and go to another galaxy. I tend to believe there's probably a lot more to it than that, if they actually exist. And then if that's the case, why would they help us anyway?
Thanks for the call.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Thanks for the call, Brad. Cornelius in Louisiana, one of those low-lying coastal areas. What's on your mind this morning?
God bless both of y'all, Mr. Brent and George, and I want to thank your screen caller. I was just going to ask about, I've been watching Armageddon Week on the History Channel, and they had the next Nostradamus on there, and he uses a computer program to figure out future events. And I was wondering, do you rely on biblical prophecy along with your other prophecies? So thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
That's a very good question. Thank you. God bless you, too. We're just now compiling the prophecies, and we're using the vast majority. There are so many ancient scrolls that have been accumulated in the Middle East. A lot of the prophecies go back 3,000-4,000 years, and a lot of that are biblical. And they are all painting the same picture about what's coming up. For example, the pole shift. In Revelations, the sixth seal seems to pretty much define, in the modern vernacular at that day, a worldwide pole shift. The description being in the Koine Greek that every island and every mountain would be moved off of its foundation.
Huh.
If they don't have the scientific terms, pole shift, that kind of thing, but that pretty much describes it right there. There's two theories of a pole shift. A force grabs the entire planet and turns it so it spins in a different way, or the outer crustal mantle slips on the inner, more liquid hot mantle. The outer crust slips on the inner hot mantle. If you look at the prophecy of the sixth seal, every island and every mountain would be moved off of its foundation. We're talking crustal pole shift. That answers one of the two questions. And there are a number of other prophecies that refer to that same type of an event. But yeah, we are looking at Bible prophecy. We're looking at the sequence of events of the seals and relating that to science, and they all seem to match up with a computer model we have of events that we'll talk about.
Thanks for that question, Cornelius. That was interesting. We're going to go east of the Rockies. Sherry in Orlando. How you doing, Sherry?
Hi, guys. I am just so blessed to talk to Mr. Miller at this time. I have followed your work for some time now. I have the first DVD that you put out. And ironically, I've lived here in Florida nearly 50 years, and ironically, I'm moving to Ohio for under some strange circumstances, but I think that's a pretty good move in my future. But I wanted to ask Mr. Miller, I respect all of the work that you have done because of the research, and that you don't, there's no guesswork. This is all scientific, and you take pride in that, and I see that in your work. But what I want to know is, you haven't had much time to talk about I know you're going to have some DVDs out, in the future for prophecies and things like that, and I want to know when you anticipate those to be out.
And is this how you are supported, Brent?
Actually, no. We have contributions from all over the world and universities. The DVDs produce a very little bit amount in order to keep the research going. As you know, the production and research in the real world does cost an awfully lot of money. As I said before, we just had a film crew and an entire research crew just come back from the Middle East. I was there myself as well, and collecting information. And but in terms of financing, we're privately financed. But to answer your question, Sherry, we were hoping to get into a lot of prophecy. We didn't seem to get into any prophecy on this, but it's probably a good thing on this couple hours, because we're going to be finishing up and compiling what prophecy